So yes, unfortunately, Team Fortress 2 has been confirmed to not be getting a Source 2 port. However, this could be a good thing, or this could be a very bad thing. It really all depends on how you look at Team Fortress 2 as a game. So let's go over all the different details that I have regarding the future of Team Fortress 2 in the latter half of 2015, and whether or not the Source 2 port was indeed what we needed to be able to breathe new life into this game. Here we go. So yes, I know what I said. I know I said Team Fortress 2 was the game that made sense to get a Source 2 port. I still kind of stand by that idea, but I do see where Valve is coming from. Team Fortress 2 is a game that is very glitchy, mostly because it's just a tower of duct tape. The original game that they started out with is still there, they've just added on to it so many times that it's a poorly optimized glitchy mess at worst, and a really fun first-person team-based shooter at best. However, porting over Team Fortress 2 probably would have been the most difficult to do, mostly just because of how much stuff would have to be ported over into the new engine. All the cosmetics, all the weapons, all the maps, and making sure that they all work well together without any new game-breaking glitches. Team Fortress 2 has its fair share of glitches. Porting over Team Fortress 2 to Source 2 would not only have a ton of new exploits, making the game pretty much unplayable for a long period of time, and would just make a lot of resources at Valve focused on just fixing old content, which would make a lot of people mad that they're not getting new content. The Team Fortress 2 community, including myself, expects a certain amount of content to come out every year, and lately we've been getting less and less of it. Sure, the content that we get is great, and it really seems like Valve is starting to try and breathe a different kind of life, but the game would totally lose a player base if the majority of the resources put onto the game was just there to be able to fix new bugs that would happen within the porting process. I think the Team Fortress team thinks it's a better idea to focus on making new content for the game instead of fixing the old content. So, on that note, let's talk about the new content that we actually do know will come out at least by the end of 2015. First, and most importantly, competitive matchmaking. After the gunmetal update and the enormous amount of balance changes that we saw go into the game, it is obvious that Valve is focusing on making the game more playable for a competitive matchmaking scene. Valve has invited a lot of the top Team Fortress 2 players to give their input on what they think the game will be able to have and the game will be able to benefit from with the different changes. And according to a few different people in the competitive matchmaking scene, Valve will be working closely with the competitive matchmaking players to make sure that the game is as balanced as possible. Yes, we've been hearing this for about 3 years now, but because we have the competitive matchmaking pass already in the game's code, and because the major bulk of the balance changes have already happened, it is safe to assume that either the next major update or the major update following that will have the full-on competitive matchmaking game mode. Whether or not it will be in beta and whether or not it will be behind a paywall is unknown at the current time. However, I do still think that free-to-play players may not be able to have full reign within competitive matchmaking. There will be ranked-based matchmaking based on leaked files from last year, and those ranks will probably not include the lowest of the low free-to-play players. On top of competitive matchmaking, we do know about 2 themes of updates that are aside from the normal holiday updates: Spy vs. Engie and an alien-themed update. We're not going to talk about the alien-themed update too much because the more you guys talk about it, the less likely Valve will release it. Keep it in mind, but Gunmetal was very much hinting towards Spy vs. Engie in 2 major ways. One we've talked about before. The only 2 classes that got the majority of their weapons balanced and their gameplay completely changed was the Spy and the Engie. It was also brought to my attention that the weapons collections are named something kind of interesting. At first, we have 2 weapon collections that are named after maps, 2 Fort and Powerhouse, but the other 2 are named after the Spy and Engie themselves, the Concealed Killer and the Craftsman. I didn't notice that along with the majority of people that have been participating in Gunmetal, and it is kind of obvious that that's what it's hinting towards. Spy vs. Engie is still something that is going to be released. Valve is still hinting towards it, and to be honest, the people that think that the Gunmetal update is just the empty shell of what once was the Spy vs. Engie update is untrue. We still know that the Engineer will be getting some kind of new building due to code hinting towards a new Engineer building called the Speed Pad. It is very possible the Engineer could get many things that are wanted, such as the buildings having some kind of cosmetic features, and there being new buildings to begin with. The Speed Pad might not be released, it might just have been canned between then and now. But just keep in mind that a lot of the information that we have regarding the next Spy Spy vs. Engie update is that it will probably happen in the next update. I don't expect all of the different themes to come together at once, and in fact, I expect this new alien-themed update to actually be the Halloween-themed update of this year. So, competitive matchmaking and Spy vs. Engie coming together as the next major big Team Fortress 2 update makes a lot of sense, and is probably what's going to happen. The update itself will probably come out during the release of the next Team Fortress comic, which has been stated to be coming out in mid-August, although we all know Valve does not really stick to their timetables, and it could be anywhere from now until the end of the gunmetal contracts, which is about early October. So if we end up having to wait until the gunmetal contracts are over, it is very possible that the Halloween update will just be that big, although it is very possible that between then and now we will get the update we're all waiting for. Spy vs. Engie will be a big deal, and it's also very possible it will have its own type of contracts very similar to that we're seeing in gunmetal. It's also very possible that what we're seeing in gunmetal is just a test for future Team Fortress updates. Expect more contracts. Once everything related to gunmetal ends, that does not mean that we're not going to be getting contracts. I expect Valve to be giving out more and more of those every time they end. Valve will just charge another $5 for you to be able to participate in this other timed contract event. But other than the fact that the next update will probably happen alongside the next comic, and that we're also getting Spy vs. Engie competitive matchmaking, another set of contracts, and also an alien-themed update that, as long as we don't talk about it too much, we will probably see it. The future of Team Fortress 2 is very bright, even though we might not be getting the Source 2 engine port that we all wanted. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. As you know, I'm Tyler McVicker. This is Valve News Network. Have a good day. Adios.